Christ is king, it's where we belong. Stay with the dream, don't lose your way. Right way's the fire that'll light the day. Keep it simple, let the moment arrive. 3-8 trap keeps the hope alive. Hold on tight till the signal's near. Right way's the trail, we're breaking through fear.
Good morning, fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the morning market prep video for Friday, November 14th, 2025. Well, here we are about halfway through the month, and the Bears decided to have a little bit of a party yesterday, and I had mentioned the possibility of sell the news event, and it looks like that is exactly what happened here on the day. Let's dive in and see what happened overnight last night. If we take a look at Asian markets, little bit of a challenging situation over there last night. We saw only India was able to push through some positive numbers, up $30.90 or 0.12% higher. But if we take a look at Shanghai fell by $39 or 0.97% lower. The Nikkei fell by 905 points, 905.30 or 1.77%. South Korea, 159.06 lower or 3.81%. Hong Kong fell by 557 or 1.85% lower, and Australian markets dropped by 118.90 or 1.36% lower. Pretty rough evening over there for some of those markets. If we take a look at European markets decidedly bearish this morning, continuing to move lower here. We have the DAX at the moment down 336.22 or 1.40% lower. FTSE is down 156.61 or 1.59%, and the CAC is lower by 109.23 or 1.33% lower. Feeling a little bit on the bearish side. If we take a look at U.S. futures at the moment, we're bouncing back up here a little bit from lows earlier this morning, but we are down 228 points in the Dow futures. S&P 500 futures declining by 48.25, and NASDAQ futures falling by 289.75 here at the moment. So feeling just a little bit uncertain here this morning as those bears continue that attack. So how about we take a look at some of the other markets here and see what's going on other places. If we take a look at bond prices here this morning, bond prices trying to edge a bit back up. They fell a little bit at the end of the day yesterday on the 2-year, and that's still holding in there on the 2-year. The 2-year is coming in at 3.58% here this morning. Unfortunately, though, the 10-year is moving higher. The 10-year is at 4.13%, and the 30-year has jumped up to 4.73% here this morning. So a little bit of pressure in those bonds. And if we take a look at the dollar in here, you can see our dollar is trying to bounce back up a little bit here today. We had a failure of that upside trend yesterday. Nothing so much as to really create massive worry, but we'll have to start pushing back up and see if we can break through some of these resistance levels in the chart. We easily could recover this if we can get something going here, so watch that carefully in that dollar here today. If we take a look at precious metals, metals, commodities, everything got hammered pretty hard yesterday. If we take a look at gold here this morning, gold is pulling back again today. Right now down $33.70 an ounce, 4,160.70 an ounce here this morning. Silver is also pulling back. Right now, only down 89 cents at 52.28 an ounce here this morning. Copper is also a little bit lower here this morning by about 5 cents after a really ugly failure, bearish engulfing right at price resistance there on that COPX. This is a minor, not actually copper, but kind of keep an eye on that. That's kind of an ugly double top situation there in that stock. If you take a look at platinum also pulling back here again this morning. Right now down $40.90 an ounce, or 2.53%. Watch this carefully here. If this falls off of this ledge, that could be a little bit of a problem. And palladium down $54.70 an ounce, 3.70% this morning. Also running the risk of losing a little bit of support. Boy, when we take a look at cryptos, they had a rough day yesterday, and it's starting off pretty rough this morning as well. IBIT here, representing Bitcoin, as you can see, breaking down through support, making some new lows and probably stretching into this next level. Right now down $2,345 dollars a coin lower, 2.34%. If we take a look at Ether, it is down $49.93 a coin, 1.59% lower. And you can also see in here that we're giving up some price support. The next price support would be substantially lower here if it doesn't bounce right back up. And then Solana is also lower by $2.30 a coin, 1.58% lower. Clearly it has broken down through this next level of price support, and there isn't anything beneath that. So be kind of watching that carefully here on Solana. Let's take a look at our let's see, did I cover all? No, oil. There we go. I knew there was something else. It's Friday. My brain must be fried. Let's take a look at oil here this morning. If we take a look at USO is trying to bounce back. A couple of really ugly days there on oil, but it is picking back up here nicely this morning, up $1.52. Let's see, coming in at $60.22 a barrel. Brent is also higher, coming in at $64.51 a barrel. And natural gas is just a tiny bit lower after showing a lot of strength here. Yes, even yesterday, was stubbornly held up. Right now down about 9.5 cents. So keep an eye on natural gas. Might be time for a little bit of a rest or pullback in those stocks. So, what does all that mean for the day? Well, how about we settle in? Let's buckle up. Let's get ready for the Friday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thanks so much for being here. I truly appreciate it. Let's take a look at these index charts, see if we can glean a little bit of information about how we might want to approach the market for today. Remember, we want to look at the markets for what they are, not for what we want them to be. We want to focus in on the details, and hopefully you can see that the focus in on the details yesterday kind of helped a little bit if you're willing to see the potential of the bears coming in. So let's take a look at what we've got going on here today. Well, first off, this morning, we're going to give up this price support. We held above that yesterday. We're going to give that up here this morning, it looks like, in a gap down move. Now, we're starting to reach a little bit of an overbought situation in the short term. We'll look at that in just a second. But one of the things we'll want to be paying pretty close attention to here is there's a little bit of support right in here. we might catch that area and bounce. And if that doesn't catch us in here, notice we've got a pretty substantial move further that could occur there in the diamonds to come back, test this stronger area of price support and that upside trend. So watch that carefully if those bears were to continue to push. Now, if the bulls can shake this off, and certainly possible that they can just shake this off and bounce back up, we'll want to start watching these areas of price resistance as they bounce back. Clearly, the bulls might be a little bit shaken right now, and we'll take a look at that in the VIX, seeing that fear coming up. So watch that carefully. Now, unfortunately, the diamonds is the best chart in the indexes right now. And because when we take a look at the SPY, we have a little bit of a problem here. Our SPY has officially created a lower high. And this reversal in here, breaking back down through this area of price support, is really raising some concern in the market. Now, if we continue to push in this move, we would need to break this down here to make officially a new lower low and establish a downtrend in the SPY. However, just breaking below the head of this candle might be enough to really change sentiment here in the market. So watch that carefully. Now, if those bears continue to push, let's take a look here. We've got a 50-day moving average that we'll be breaching here this morning. If they continue to push, I think there is a pretty substantial chance that we could break that down here today, particularly if we see some of these other stocks starting to show weakness this morning, and continuing that push to the downside toward those 50-day moving averages. So SPY could lose that today in that 50-day moving average. Now, if this oversold situation takes hold and we get a nice bounce, if that bounce occurs, then you can see we have created some challenges for that way back up. Getting back up through here will be a bit of a challenge. At least I believe it will be a bit of a challenge as we push back up here in the market. The way the market's been zooming, though, lately, anytime we hint to the upside, everybody piles in. That could just pierce right through there. But remember that what we've done is we've created several levels of resistance here in the chart where we could create that lower high. So watch that carefully. Be a little bit cautious. Don't be chasing stocks that are overextended. Be looking for those stocks that provide you relatively low risk entry points, which is really hard if you trade options because the bid-ask spreads and options are nutty right now. So be kind of careful here in the market. Caution. Remember, cash is a position. You do not have to put your money at risk in a market like this. If we take a look at the QQQ has a real serious problem in here. A lower high created here in the chart and broke down through consecutive levels of support here in the chart, and we are very, very close to taking out this tail here in QQQ and officially creating a lower high and a lower low, which represents obviously a downtrend. So watch that carefully here on the day. Certainly a possibility with a good strong push from those bears. They're feeling a little bit more emboldened this morning, it looks like. So watch that carefully. Now, if they bounce, and I think there's every reason to believe they could, we could grab right in here, we could grab right in here, and we could work on bouncing back up in a relief rally. If that occurs here today, keep an eye on these levels. If we push right on through into this area this morning as we bounce back up, we'll have to watch all of these resistance areas coming back up that we have created now in the chart, and that's just pushing back up toward the downtrend. So be kind of careful here, and once again, be careful chasing already extended stocks. And then the Russell, well, the Russell made it official. The Russell made a lower high and followed that up with a lower low. Our IWM is officially downtrending in the market right now. So if we continue to see selling here pushing on through, you can see we've got some pretty big drops that could be made to test some really pretty good areas of price support in the chart. So maybe we stop if we get down in there. I will point out here in the moving averages, this constituted a failure of the 50-day moving average. Any rally back sets up that opportunity that we might start seeking out the 200-day. And you can see here QQQ this morning will also be giving up the 50-day moving average. So we're really starting to see some technical damage, and boy did it happen quickly here in the market, even as the Dow raced to the upside. So the Dow continues to be the strongest of the indexes at the moment. Let's take a look at our VIX. Now our VIX, good solid move to the upside yesterday in that break. So we'll want to watch this carefully with this gap down this morning. I think there's a possibility we could see the VIX up in here testing this resistance in the chart, maybe even pushing beyond there. That's a fairly big area of price resistance. If it pushes beyond there, watch out. We could really get into a situation of panic selling because everyone has been so convinced that the market cannot fall that they're overly long the market, and the pullback can be really painful, and they can stop themselves out at a pretty fast pace, which kind of cascades things a little bit lower for a short period of time. So watch that carefully if that were to occur. If we take a look at our T21 22, this might be one of your better opportunities to see a bounce back. With the gap down here this morning, we're probably going to be entering, or very, very close to entering, an overbought situation in T21, or oversold situation in T21 22, and pushing down in here to that bullish reversal zone. Certainly looks like a possibility this morning. Now, if we push down in here, what we've seen recently in T21 22 is that we almost immediately bounce down in here. We push down and immediately bounce, push down and immediately bounce. But I want to remind everyone that that doesn't have to be the case. There are lots of examples here in T21 22 where we end up lingering down here in that lower range. That shock of the market selling off like this can make people hesitate, and that hesitation creates more of that choppiness or lingering down here toward that bottom range. So don't just assume. It may work out that it's another buy the dip event, but don't just assume that, because a lot of folks will get hurt when that buy the dip event ceases to exist, and we continue to, we'll bounce, we'll get an intraday, we'll whipsaw, everybody thinks this is the bottom, we're going to race back up, and then it whipsaws back down and makes new lows. So watch that carefully here. Protect yourself. Try not to be aggressive in a market like this until we kind of settle this down a little bit. Then let's take a look at our T2108. Now T2108 pulled back yesterday, and this is also good news for the bulls in here, because this wasn't severe. This was not a severe pullback. If you watched the sell-off yesterday, it seemed to just be very controlled. It wasn't panic driven. It was just drifting lower and lower under pressure. The gap down here this morning could add a little bit of that panic to the market. So watch this carefully. T2108 still holding in here above 35%. The gap down this morning, we're likely going to breach that to the downside. But we've got support down in here that we can hold. So watch that carefully in here. No reason to believe that this is going to just drop out just yet. So watch that carefully. And if the bulls have anything to say today, if they fight back and get that bounce, well, we can see where the resistance is here in the chart. Our T2107 percentage of stocks above the 200 also pulled back yesterday, but it wasn't catastrophic. We've got a nice little area of price support in here. If the bulls can fight back in here, we might be able to bounce off of this area and push on through. However, with the gap down here this morning, there is a pretty good chance we'll be down in this range quickly this morning, maybe testing these support levels here in the chart. So watch that carefully if the bears really do show some tenacity here today. Let's take a look at our T2101. T2101, this is also very, very concerning to me. Yesterday, as the bears were selling off, what we needed to see is we needed to see their breadth pushing up. Didn't happen. They gapped up here in the morning on the sell-off and then continued to drift lower yesterday. The breadth did not follow those bears yesterday. This is a very odd situation to move that big and not see bearish breadth. And so that's what I mean is there really was no panic in here, but a gap down here this morning could trigger a little bit of that panic. So watch that carefully. If we were to continue to sell off and we happen to see that breadth starting to engage, that's going to give that clue that the bears are feeling like they have an opportunity here. So watch that carefully in the chart. Let's take a look at our economic calendar here for today. And our economic calendar, honestly, not much going to happen here because we know we're not going to get these reports here this morning. Government just being reopened, they're not. Let me just say 99.9% sure we're not going to get anything here. We might get a business inventories report here today, looking for a 0.2 on that consensus month over month. So keep an eye on that. But basically what we've got going in here is a natural gas report and Fed speak along with the Baker Hughes. Not much in here to be particularly worried about. And the only thing that's been noteworthy, apparently, out of any of the Fed speak this week is Bostic is saying that he's not going to seek restatement or a reappointment to the board. He is going to be done. So, and that's the only thing that's even been noteworthy of anything that they've said here recently. So watch that carefully. Let's take a look at what we've got going on our earnings calendar. And unfortunately, we don't have much for inspiration here today. It's kind of coming at a bad time for the market. I didn't even write this up today because the only notables are SRRK, and it's not even that particularly notable, and SR. So keep an eye on those two stocks. Those are the only particularly notable stocks. Everything else is a relatively small cap, not really particularly notable for the day. So there's not going to be a whole lot of inspiration here today in that those earnings reports. So kind of keep that in mind. And AMAT yesterday apparently disappointed a little bit. That's not helping here this morning as well. So how about we take a look at a few stocks that could be setting up for today. But before we do that, everyone, if you could do me that quick favor, if this is the first time you've seen these videos, if you could please click that subscribe button on YouTube and then also click that bell icon when it pops up so you'll be notified every time I post a video. And if you find these videos to be useful or helpful, if you could do me that favor, and that would be click that thumbs up button, leave a brief comment. That helps the channel to grow. Thank you so much for everyone who takes the time to do that. I do truly appreciate it. And remember that in a market like this, sometimes the best thing to do is just sit on your hands, to let the volatility shake itself out. If you're not comfortable with really swift trading, just let the market settle out, go to cash, wait, and then look for your opportunities. We don't have to put money at risk in markets that we're uncomfortable with. So kind of keep that in mind. Cash is a position, and it's a position that is often underutilized by folks that aren't comfortable with the volatility of the market. They end up losing too much money back to the market by not being willing to just stand aside. So there are some long stocks here looking pretty good. If you take a look at a lot of the healthcare has been holding in here pretty strongly and looking pretty good. We're seeing some of these stocks like the old borings like Bristol Myers, big strong stretch to the upside. They need a rest. They need a pullback in here to set up an opportunity. But keep an eye on some of those healthcare. J&J is looking really good in here. If you take a look, this not exactly healthcare, but Procter & Gamble trying to come up out of this bottom, and notice it's trying to hold this little higher low in here. We might start seeing this consumer defensive sector in here start picking up. What happens is we get some of the high flyers in the market get sold off. People start repositioning money into more defensive type plays that pay a solid dividend. So they kind of hedge in a market like this. So watch that carefully on some of these consumer defensive plays. They are certainly worth keeping an eye on here in the market. Also take a look at things like Merck. Merck, big stretch here to the upside, just needs a little rest or pullback, and I think that sets up an opportunity. If you like longer term charts, boy, look at that weekly. That's a beauty. That is a beauty. So keep an eye on some of those defensive stocks. Take a look at anything in that healthcare sector. There's a lot of stocks looking pretty strong in that area. Boy, you cannot throw out Apple here. That's a nice looking chart, and it's still setting up in a very bullish pattern, holding on to this upside trend. If we can get a bounce back rally or relief rally, I'd keep an eye on Apple. That might just pop and move on through to the upside. And Google had a really rough day yesterday. I had talked about this one yesterday as a possibility to keep an eye on. Now I think there's a better chance that you should wait here on Google. Let this settle out, let the dust settle, let it come back in here to support and trend, and then there may be that opportunity to move on through to the upside on Google. Had some pullback here in Micron, but there's really nothing wrong with that chart. Micron, one of the better tech plays out here right now. I think that has a really nice potential setup. Keep an eye on Micron. Let's take a look at our financials. Now, unfortunately, we had such a big, strong move of financials on Wednesday that took it all back. A lot of it was taken back yesterday, as you can see here in XLF. Now, what's going to have to happen here is if this is going to remain bullish, and trust me, we're going to need the financials to remain bullish if we're going to continue this move to the upside where our valuations are so stretched out. If we can't get the financials to participate in that, be really careful. But on the financials, if they rest and hold in here, then I think we have that opportunity of that higher low after breaking this downtrend, and we might be able to get those financials to resume to the upside. I would be a little bit concerned or a little bit worried that this could be one of those really nasty head fakes in here where we pop up and we end up taking it right back down. So watch that carefully here. There's the repo market is really active right now. We're in a situation where it's over 3 trillion. There's a lot of activity in the repo market showing us that there is a little bit of a problem potentially here in these banks. So watch that carefully. Let's take a look at some other areas. Ford continues to hang in here really nicely, look pretty darn good. I'd keep an eye on Ford. You might want to keep an eye on General Motors. It really hasn't had any major problem in here at all on the sell-off, so watch that carefully, holding nicely zooming in the trend a little bit, but nice support, nice trend. Look for that next opportunity here in General Motors. That's looking pretty decent. I keep mentioning things like First Solar. It just decided to move with the rest of the market a little bit lower here, but keep an eye on this. As long as that continues to hold in here on this support, if we just get a little bit of a relief back up, I would look for that to maybe start pushing on through to the upside. Worth keeping an eye on. Keep an eye on BTU. Although it sold a little bit yesterday, nothing wrong with this chart. I think what we're doing in here is we're just working our way back to this longer term upside trend. We got a little bit carried away here, looking pretty good, and I think we're still going to need, if we're going to get AI going, we're going to need all of these energies to do an awful lot of work to provide enough power to these tech companies. So watch that carefully here in BTU. I would continue to look at some of the oil sector stocks. Valero is a really nice looking chart and may have that opportunity to push on higher here. All we need is that little kick of bullishness, and I would watch that carefully. Sting also setting up nicely in here and looking pretty good. Take a little bit of a look at some of the defensive sector stocks. Watch some of those. We saw a little bit of pullback here in Coke yesterday and then bounced right back up. So watch some of those old boring dividend paying defensive sector stocks. They may be the place that institutions rotate to maintain some of their profits of this bullish run. So watch that closely. So with that, everyone, hey, I want to wish you all a great day in trading. Also, just a wonderful weekend. Remember, this should not have been a surprise that we were kind of overbaked and a pullback was due in the market. Now, whether this turns into a serious correction or not, that's yet to be seen. But be really, really careful with the buy the dip mentality and just racing back in. There's a lot of folks that are going to get hurt on that if that buy the dip just runs into pops back up on a relief rally, runs into resistance, and then we start zooming to the downside. So plan your trades carefully, be safe, have a great day, have a wonderful weekend. I'll see you right back here bright and early Monday morning. Y'all take care, everyone. Wish you all the best.
Black and white candles, my stars in the dark. Price is my king, got that fire and spark. Rideways my ranch on the trader's trail. Trading with heart where the profits prevail.